This is Amorim's underrated build-up against Arsenal's high press. See how Fernandes is free in the heart of Arsenal's coveted midfield. So Arteta's tactical thinking reacted by changing the system to man-mark Fernandes, and Amorim's system solved it by attacking the half space using their forwards. Amorim's United has been using this exact tactic of attacking half spaces using drop pace throughout the preseason. So Arteta was actually aware of this half space threat and fielded his team in such a way to defend these dropping attacks. When Arteta used Subimendi to protect this half space, Amorim brilliantly exploited it by using the alternative option of beating the press through center regions instead of half spaces. So let's decode how Amorim's genius system solves real-time problems. United use their typical build-up shape where the centre back is pushed to the midfield. Arteta's initial idea was to cover shadow these deep midfield options using the striker and attack a midfielder, while two centre midfielders provided cover for them. All three deep midfield options are marked as of now, but the structure changes when the keeper has the ball. Now Arteta wants his defensive midfielder to protect the half spaces as he is cautious of the long balls to the dropping forwards. Here Subimendi leaves Bruno to move into the half space and defend these areas if the long ball is played. When the aggressive press forced keeper to play their typical long ball in search of their dropping forward, see how Arsenal was able to counter this long ball tactic using Subimendi as a defensive cover. Now Amorim has to find a way to beat Arteta's system. In another sequence, we have the axial pressing structure where Casemiro and inverted centre back is marked by Odegaard and Gyökeres. Rice is providing the immediate cover, while Subimendi is the deep midfielder who is responsible for covering the dropping attackers like Cunha. So it's clear that Arsenal was trying to prevent United's typical build-up idea by using Subimendi in the half space. Whenever keeper had the ball without pressure, he quickly moved to the half spaces to defend these long balls. This half space positioning of Subimendi was just one of the reasons behind Bruno becoming free. But still, the true genius behind Amorim's wing-back system is often overlooked. Here Martinelli is tucked inside and the striker and far side winger is leading the press. But initially, Arsenal pressed using Martinelli and Saka, and striker was actually cover shadowing the midfield. But now, United's build-up forced Arteta to change his pressing structure. Before looking at that, let's see what were the consequences of Arteta's tactical change. In this new pressing setup, the striker and winger is pressing, while Martinelli sat back. This means now striker is not cover shadowing the midfielder and he has left the passing lane open. Now the centre midfielder has to push high to close down Casemiro. Here Odegaard is already pinned by the inverted centre back and thus Fernandes became the free option. In simpler terms, United's build-up shape is pinning Arsenal's three midfielders so that Fernandes is free. But why the pressing structure was changed? Arteta's initial idea was to push their winger to press high, but it left United wing-back totally free in the early minutes. Here Arteta's idea was to use his full-backs to jump on the wing-back if he is played by the keeper. But this idea of pushing the full-back to close down the wing-back backfired, as United's half-space attacker dragged Arsenal centre-back out of position. This is a risky situation for Arsenal as their backline is exposed. Later left-back became reluctant to jump on the wing-back due to the threat of Mbeumo in half space. Thus Arteta tweaked the structure by keeping Martinelli deep and ready to press the wing-back only when the ball is played. But this tactical tweak actually weakened their structure as it pushed Rice high and left the midfield unprotected to make Bruno free. Now the press can be easily bypassed using Bruno as the midfield protector is already engaged in marking the dropping forward. When Arteta tried to solve wing-back issue in one side, Amorim created problems on the other side. Here Martinelli stops the pass to right back, but on the left, Saka is high and the left back is a free option. This offered a free option for the keeper with Fernandes being another free option in the middle. Since Subimendi is tasked to close down the dropper, Arsenal has no midfielder to cover Bruno as two others are already pinned. So now a centre back has to jump. Though Arteta wants this half space to be protected by Subimendi, the movement of dropping striker dragged him wide and allowed the wing back to access the same area Arteta was trying to close down. So again, Arteta's plans backfired. Since United is technically superior in these situations, Arteta tried to avoid these duels between centre back and Cunha, but Amorim kept on finding him with his house pace attacks. He completely exposed Arteta when Arsenal changed their system later in the second half. The pressing structure remained same, with striker and winger forming the first line, Odegaard marking inverted centre back, and Rice pushing to cover the centre midfield. The only change was Subimendi being tasked to mark Fernandes. As expected, this left the half space free. So instead of using Fernandes, now keeper can go for their typical half space long ball. And now Arteta has to deal with what he feared the most, the duel. Obviously, United is technically superior with Cunha, and the whole press was bypassed with Cunha running at a vulnerable backline. Things were same on the right, as Ahmad became the dropper to win the duel. So it's pretty much clear that Amorim's system can compete with top teams in the Premier League, but it still needs a technically balanced centre midfielder, and Sesko has to prove his worth